woman's body is so beautiful, and it doesn't matter how old or how young she is, it's basically a beautiful creation. When we try to push ourselves into fixed positions, we deny that beautiful flexibility and roundness that we have been given. So the empowerment of our being through our body, I feel, is what yoga is about. And give yourself the freedom that yoga is about you. Yoga is about being alive, about feeling who you are, what your body's telling you, what you feel inside, and opening it up, and opening up yourself in every way. I believe it's really about unfolding ourselves. I would like to ask the question, what is yoga and where does it come from? We're used to being told that yoga comes from India and the Himalayas, and that way back when, probably thousands of years, there were some enlightened men, supposedly enlightened by the gods, and they delivered this wonderful method of finding peace with ourselves and peace with our surroundings. But for somebody who lives in the world today, and especially for a woman, that's a very far ideal to follow. And many of us have tried it. We've pruned ourselves down, we've become athletic and contorted ourselves into pretzel shapes, and we've read the books, and we've tried many different techniques, and always we're left with something missing. Where do I fit in? Will I ever be perfect enough? Will I ever get to the level that is expected of me? And there seems to be a sort of ladder of patriarchs that are looking down and saying, "Not yet, my dear. Work harder, work harder." And so I thought, who were those people and what did they do? And supposing I was one of them, or you were one of them, and you took enough time to study what's going on inside yourself, and to study your feelings and what they do to your body, and to watch how you move. If you have an urge to move, where does it come from? Doing yoga became more of an internal journey, and it took me further away from trying to check out if I looked all right in a pose, into feeling. In a way, it seemed like I was going backwards in my practice, but the satisfaction inside was spreading, and I began to feel more feminine and aware of what people were feeling inside their bodies. So now I look not so much for a stunning pose, but where is somebody not enlivened? Where is the body not full and empowered? And see if we can find a way to, from the inside, bring the energy to that point and open it out and empower it. And gradually, like a car that's been dented, gradually from the inside undent ourselves. Now here, wait, and empower this hip. That's it. Then you can drop this hip away from that empowered hip. Right, so you're starting to fall. Here, this left half is falling away from the spine with gravity. Now you activate the right roller and unzip it. You must detach it from the center, and then it can start to roll. And the kidney rolls. Good. And take your time, because you've got to release the leg out of the belly. And now this leg becomes a very active roller itself. It rolls like that. And come off the ground. Don't touch the floor yet. The energy is going right through her. And she's splitting down the center, and she can lift off here and peel it over. Ah, there you go. She has peeled the back body over the core. So in fact, this is not, you could say this was the inner body, and she's peeled her back over it. And this just hangs down over the core. And see how powerful that core is that runs through her. Then you continue this with the arm. You can rest lightly, and now you're going to peel this area off you here, that part of the roller, and it follows into that arm as and when you're ready until the shoulder comes down onto the floor. And this roller is still going this way, but this roller is actively going that way, and now you grow internally. Out and out from the inside. Yeah. You see, everything comes to life. All the toes. There you go. Yeah. Beautiful. And at a certain point, you go into a deep state of quietness. In that extreme openness, you unzip yourself totally. And then you can surrender. So one more dying warrior. You've probably seen those Roman sculptures of the sort of the last breath. But actually, what it turns out to be, it's the sort of rebirthing of the inner body. A pose is a way to start, because you need to feel something in life. You do need to feel some resistance and to rub with that. So if you put yourself in a pose or an asana, you're going to start feeling something. Somewhere your hip hurts or your shoulder's stiff. And then it's what you do with it that matters. You can just bash through and even damage yourself. Or you can go in and out of it and start to get to know it and free it up and get the energy to move. You can start questioning, why am I hurting in this place? A lot of times we bring the energy just up into the head, and then we get very mental and focused, and that obviously has a purpose too. But I think the more feminine approach is to let your awareness be absorbed in the whole body and feel that you are living in every part. I basically wanted to feel more comfortable in my life. I don't know that I could have quite put it that way, but I sometimes saw people and I thought, oh, I wish I could feel as comfortable in my life as that person seems to feel. Now, they may not have felt very comfortable, but to me, I thought they did. I think that's what I was looking for in yoga. But then I got caught into the excitement of achieving more and more. But inside, I hadn't changed. And that's when I got a shock. And I realized that there were people who didn't practice yoga, but who could sit for hours on the street with their little pile of tomatoes or apples and seemed completely serene. I would go and sit by them just to get a touch of that feminine, big feminine contentment. So I went on a trip then, and one of the places I landed at was a temple on the northeast coast of India. It was covered in little sculptures, figurines of female figures, and they were not that big, but they were very beautiful, and they were very rounded forms. They had really rounded breasts and buttocks and little waists, and they were moving in you could say a very feminine, sensual way. And something clicked inside me that said, these are yogis, yoginis, yet they are women. And I realized that I had been doing yoga as if I were a man. And that was quite a shock. That I had enjoyed it too. The more aesthetic and striving in one-pointed direction was very attractive. It helped me not to look at what was going on inside. But that temple did change something. Something changed inside me. My body started to change, and then one thing led to another. The belly is where we start. We grow in the belly. We spend 9 months, most of us, in the belly. But then it tends to get forgotten about. The belly is essentially very female. First of all, it's mysterious. You can't see what's inside it, and life grows inside it. One of the things about the belly is that we do hold a lot of emotions there. And as you relate more to your belly, it does take away your tight control on life. If our belly is tight, we restrict that energy that keeps us healthy. So when the belly is pliable and alive, we can move and massage the organs. If you turn the belly, the body will turn much more easily. If the belly is tight, you have to struggle with your muscles. So keeping the belly moving and alive, you can enjoy your twisting much more. It's like a spiral that moves all the way up through your body and out of your head. We need to re-empower ourselves, and we find the possibility in our bodies. When you really get in touch with your body, you can fill it with power. That's the breath, a feeling that you fill yourself with your own power. Like a leaf is filled with its own power. It becomes fat and full and juicy and green, and that's a leaf. And then when the power is gone, it starts to dry and shrivel up. So we can dry and shrivel up, or we can empower ourselves. And so the yoga poses are a possibility to do that. But do you empower yourself, filling your arms, filling your hands, filling your fingers, filling your face, filling your breasts, filling your buttocks? Or do you just do a pose and try to get every part of your body in line? In the wintertime, under the earth, the life begins. And it begins in the depths of our belly. And it begins to unfold. Every time it unfolds and looks at the light, it retreats back in and says, I'm not quite ready. I need a little more power, and then I'll come higher. Here I feel the energy moving more towards the front, so I drop back and I choose one place in my body, and right now I'm choosing just above the pubis, and there I drop back into the sacrum and widen and rise. Then I choose my navel, for example, and widen the kidneys and come up. Then I choose my sternum and widen the ribs and rise up. I choose the whole lot and widen, come up, and then my throat and widen. And you drop the lowest point, which is the buttocks, and you really move them back and down. And the head will follow. You don't have to do anything with the head, it's going to follow anyway. The reason I start from the ground is because you get that sense of this back body being like a blanket over you. And the blanket hangs over you, but as you come up, the blanket is then going to be supporting you this way, so that by returning like a wave back into it, you gather power from it. And then you can come higher. It's the empowerment again. With your internal energy, you widen and come up. You sink down over your knees and spread over your hips. And there, deep in the darkness, the life begins inside the belly. And you start, that little seed starts to push up. And it'll come up differently in everybody. That little seed is moving forwards, and then it drops a little bit into the back, and the back widens. You have to really drop back into it and powerfully expand it. It's not just a nice idea, it's a powerful movement to spread your back wings. Watch what the body asks for and slowly unravel yourself. And then sink back again, because that's what life does. Comes out of the earth and blossoms only to return to the earth. Yoga actually has always been organic. It's always been an understanding of energy and nature. It's just that it's sometimes the form in which it arrives is limited. When we find our own energy and it starts to move through the body, when the belly starts to speak to us, it brings up a very potent energy, a very powerful part of ourselves. So as you let your energy flow, the muscles have to do less and less. And peeling away the armor, peeling away the muscles, gives space, and the energy pours through the body. I thought, well, I can't teach this. And then I went to a class and there was a woman in a forward bend. Normally I would have helped her to go further by giving some extra pressure, but I just could see that in her back, that seemed very tight and rigid, inside and underneath that was tremendous emotional pain of something. And I just found I put my hand very softly on her back, and her back started to melt. And she started to cry, and a lot came out, and the back completely softened down. And I think that was a turning point, that you can push and pull yourself, and you can push and pull other people, and the body will respond like a tired horse. But eventually it breaks down. And if we can realize that everything we feel and everything that happens to us is in the body. So if there's some great pain from the past hidden in the body, you're not going to get it away from you unless you go in and start listening to it and let it unravel itself. All these things come crowding in, and they come like this, and we get them in our brain, and we don't just say, oh well, throw it away. We say, aha, that's something important. Maybe I'm not good enough. Maybe she doesn't like me. Maybe he thinks something else. So when you're moving around and shaking off bits, if you can search for what it is that you are at this moment very attached to, and see if you can throw it out, because it's disempowering you. These things are taking away from us, and we don't need them. But when you throw it out, something inside can begin to grow. It can begin to feel itself. And it might be somebody quite different from who you thought you were. Move your belly more and more out of the house of the pelvis. So if you shift around a little bit from side to side on your feet, you can begin to roll the shell of the pelvis backwards and bring the belly further and further out. You want to ease it out and shake it off. Be free of it. You've been carrying it around so long. Just throw it away and let the belly come out. That's it. Look at everything in your life as you do it. Who is it that you're shaking out of your leg? Yes, get it out, 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 out. Make a noise if you need to. Yes. And after that, you need to be very quiet. And come back inside and see what's happening, and you'll find tingling life. Something new is growing. Something new is happening. So the outer body can now release more. The outer body is what holds us in our form, and it makes us feel we're armored and safe. But the inner body is ready now to exert and express her own power. So you can watch inside yourself this inner form, this inner energy building, and the outer body begins to crack a little. Like dry leaves, it can fall off you. So now, when you move out into one of these stretches, it's a different person that's moving. You've shaken off so much stuff that you come out and, wow, you are your tiger. You are your dog. You are your cat. Whatever. And just enjoy that stretch and feel if the energy really goes into the sole of the foot, if it really moves out into the fingertips, and see where it takes you. If you want to come forward, stay present with the whole movement all the time so that it's your inner body that moves. Because if your inner body at this point disappears and says, this is where I have a pain, and it tightens up, you'll have your pain. But if your inner body stays full and powerful, wow, wow, yeah? Don't let anybody else get in there. Our bodies are not designed to follow straight lines. They will move apparently into a straight line, but along a curved path. And what happens with yoga in the West is that it's become very much a physical training. And instead of it being a way of understanding energy and how to release that energy so that we are more potent and more powerful, it's become a form of physical training where we contract the muscles and tighten up and pull in. And this is all very well for a warrior or for someone who needs to be an athlete, but it doesn't help us to get in touch with energy. It's not that we don't do poses or that we are against the tradition. It's just that we believe that the most important thing is to find our way back to where it came from. What I would like to offer is that whatever kind of yoga you follow, can you feel that your inner body, your inner being is getting the nurturing and the enlivenment that it requires? Do you feel that you become more empowered and you need the outer forms of life less and less? Do you feel more comfortable in yourself and with your surroundings? Our whole society has become a forward, outward, upward one. Look at me, I'm doing my best. And we've been pushed out of ourselves and we leave our sacred body and our mother behind. And she gets folded into a very tight and rigid situation. And when we let her open, we soften, but she becomes wide and supportive. And in that support, we can then grow. If we are frightened, everything closes up, especially the back. And many of us have deep holding patterns from birth and early childhood of fear. And those have stayed with us. But to undo those needs a lot of time and awareness to undo all that wound up tension in the back of the body. So it's like unfolding your wings and getting back inside yourself. When you give somebody an image, that can open up a whole box full of emotions, memories, sensations, and the body awareness starts to come alive. The brain, the intellect, I mean there are all these different terms, but I think the one-pointed intellect doesn't like images too much because it's getting a bit fuzzy around the edges. The body loves them. Rivers, snakes, waterfalls, volcanoes, we come alive, and that's the feminine nature of the earth, of the planet, that we have inside us. I think yoga itself is something that is very individual. Of course, in the beginning, when you arrive in a yoga class, you need the support and the instructions from a teacher, and maybe also you need the group energy. But there comes a point when you have to find what yoga is for yourself, and then you start your own path. It's a great desire for freedom. I always had that as a child. And I tried to be free by running away from things, but in the end it was yoga that helped me to see that the journey to freedom is inside. It takes real courage, and you sort of jump off a cliff. I do remember moments of that. But I also think that once you start the journey, there's no return. And of course you hear the voices when you've been raised or taught in a certain way. You hear the voices saying, that's not correct. You're just fooling around. No, you're just messing about. You're breaking the tradition. You're destroying something that's very valuable. And who do you think you are anyway? You've just got a big ego. I mean, all those voices go on. And to dare to listen to what is coming up inside and follow that, it does take courage. And I remember a few times when I would go out in nature and just ask for help, and always a voice would come through and say, stand up and speak, or go out and do it. The trees have their roots deep in the earth, and it's this extension of our direction and our awareness beyond our physical body that is so empowering. So when we talk about rooting, we really mean opening ourselves to the space beyond us. Especially when you stand, you open your feet to the earth and You can visualize roots growing down, but in a short time you'll find that you really have an experience of those roots and you feel more solidly based in the earth and less vulnerable. And the more you get the downward direction, the more the body is able to release and open out of it. And that creates the possibility for space. So we need to open up our spaces again inside, and yoga is one of the best ways to do that. If you could unzip your back and open out one side, you would create enough space into which you could turn with the other side as you breathe. Unzip and open to the opposite side and fold back inside that new space and feel the width of the back pelvis, the kidneys, the ribs. The energy moves way out beyond the body. You feel the warmth extending outwards. A breath for me is a way to come back home. When I get a bit lost or off on a limb, if I can remember to come back to the breath, it brings me right back down inside. I think the breath is the greatest lover, the greatest friend we'll ever have. It comes in at birth and doesn't leave until we die. And it knows us more intimately than anybody will, because the breath goes into every cell of our body. It's just that we're not aware of it. We just let it do its work. But when you become aware of it and you travel with it, that beloved wakes up inside you, so you can never be alone anymore. Rolling like a wave through the body, the breath enables the energy to shift into areas and open them up, wake them up, and stir them into life and action. All waves have a retreat and an approach. Like the breath flows in and it flows out. And the body loves to move on that wave. It takes rest and it's recharged and it rises higher. But unless we understand the downward direction, we cannot fully live the upward. And unless we can embrace the upward direction of the energy, the lightness, the air, the space that surrounds us, and the light above us, we cannot fully get a sense of the earth underneath of us. The body tells us what it yearns for. Once we start to listen, and instead of following somebody else's idea, we let our body tell us where to stretch, where to lift, where to drop, where to open. So we get to know ourselves fully from the inside. From the inside out. surrender is the other side of empowerment, and the two go hand in hand. So the surrendering is an openness, and that's the feminine side of being totally open and receptive and allowing the breath to flow in. And it changes your whole perspective and your whole feeling about your body and yourself when you open yourself to the energy in the space around you, and you know that your breath is coming from far away into you. So you open yourself and become as receptive as you can. So the breath permeates you. But where does it go? On and out again. So where do you end and the breath begin? So the inhaling is soft and receptive, and the body will swell. It will widen, it will fill, because you become an open vessel. And then when it's time to exhale, that potent energy that you're filled with has to flow through every part of you so that you tingle in every cell and it moves out into the space around you. We are incredibly linked. It's the same breath that's moving through us. It's the same energy that's moving through us. It's just that we happen to be wearing different clothes, different bodies. But we are very much the same, and that's one aspect. When you go very, very deep in meditation, or maybe just in relaxation in Shavasana, you go so deep that you lose the sense of who you are. You don't seem to have a body anymore, and you just merge with the ground or with your surroundings. That's one very important part of life, because then you can tune into anything, tune into the tree, tune into the ground, tune into other people. But then there's the other side, when you come out, that you are unique. There's nobody like you. Nobody has a shoulder like this. Nobody has a nose like this. We are unique, and we express something unique. And those two aspects, I think, are a vital part of yoga. Each person is so different that from what I can see, when people start to work in this way, they just take off on their own flight. And it's almost frightening, because you realize that you have no control as a teacher. You set them off, and there they are going like a bunch of wild children or birds, up in the air and off. And yet that's the most exciting part of it, to see the gifts that they bring, because they are listening to their own process, and they are progressing in their lives, they're unfolding their lives, they're not stuck anymore. The real yogis are very simple and very content and very happy, usually bubbling, because it's all so fun. I mean, just to be alive is so amazing. And I think if you dare to start looking at what you have and what you are, it's mind-blowing, the extraordinary abundance of what is going on just in ourselves and in our life.